Book 4, Stage 7, Lesson 109. Wound, injure, injury, feelings.
Wound,
Injure, injury, feelings. Generally speaking, we use the word injury for something we receive by accident and wound for something we receive from fighting. So, what, generally speaking, is the difference between an injury and a wound?
Generally speaking, the difference between an injury and a wound is that we use the word injury for something that we receive as an accident.
Very good.
And we use wound for something we receive from fighting.
Have you ever seen anyone badly injured as the result of a road accident? Have you ever seen anyone badly injured as the result of a road accident?
Yes, I've seen someone badly injured as a result of a road accident.
And what happened?
They did not cross the street carefully and were hit by a car.
Okay. Do you know anyone who was wounded in the last World War? Do you know anyone who was wounded in the last World War?
No, I don't know anyone who was wounded in the last World War.
Okay, very good. Are your feelings easily wounded? Are your feelings easily wounded?
No, my feelings aren't easily wounded.
To make a person or thing do something, voluntary breakdown. To make a person or thing do something, voluntary breakdown. Do you think children ought to be made to study, or do you think studying ought to be voluntary? Do you think children ought to be made to study, or do you think studying ought to be voluntary?
I think children ought to be made to study.
Why?
Because children, when you're a child is when you're forming your habits. So you may not want to study, but you still ought to. That's why you have to make them study.
Very good. When a car breaks down, are you any good at making it go again? When a car breaks down, are you any good at making it go again?
No, when a car breaks down, I'm not any good at making it go again.
Very good. Separate.
Separate.
There are many words in English which, although having only one spelling, have two different pronunciations, as for example, read or read. Read in present tense, read in past tense. Use verb and use noun. Separate as a verb and separate as an adjective. So what's the difference between separate and separate? What's the difference between separate and separate?
The difference between separate and separate is that separate is the verb and separate is the adjective.
Very good. A business letter.
A business letter.
Reference, goods, order, strike, post office manager, manage, conditions, post, letterbox, faithfully, sincere, sincerely, company, limited.
Reference, goods, order, strike, post office, manager, manage, conditions, post, letterbox, faithfully, sincere, sincerely, company, limited.
Very good. Here are some contractions or abbreviations useful to write a business letter. The letters CO mean company, LTD mean limited, RD means road, ST means street, SW means southwest. The sign means end. The word Messrs we sometimes use for a business company. It is the plural of Mr. Instead of dear sir, we can use dear sirs or dear madam or dear Mr. Baker, depending of course on the kind of person to whom we are writing. Also, we can close the letter with yours sincerely instead of yours faithfully if we have addressed the person by name. So, supposing we're writing a business letter, where does the name of our company usually go on the letter paper?
Supposing we're writing a business letter, the name of our company usually goes in the middle at the top, but it can also go on the left or the right.
Very good. Where do we type the name and address of the company to which we are writing? Where do we type the name and address of the company to which we are writing?
We usually type the name and address of the company to which we're writing in the top right-hand corner of the letter or in the top left-hand corner of the letter.
Very good. How and where do we usually write the date? How and where do we usually write the date?
We usually write the date, for example, as 15 April 1992 in the middle of the page.
What do we call the person or persons we are writing to? What do we call the person or persons we are writing to?
We call the person or persons we are writing to dear sir, dear sirs, dear madam, dear Mr. Baker, etc.
If we're answering a letter, how do we usually begin our letter? If we're answering a letter, how do we usually begin our letter?
If we are answering a letter, we usually begin our letter with reference to your letter of 19th January, etc., etc.
Very good. How do we close the letter? How do we close the letter?
We close the letter with yours faithfully or yours sincerely.
What do the letters CO mean? What do the letters CO mean?
The letter CO mean company.
Excellent. What do the letters LTD mean?
The letters LTD means limited.
Very good. What about the letters ST?
Straight.
Very good. What is a reference library? What is a reference library?
A reference library is a place where reference books are kept. We refer to these books for particular information.
What do we mean by the word goods? What do we mean by the words goods?
By the word goods, we mean anything that is bought or sold.
Very good. Why do people go on strike? Why do people go on strike?
People go on strike because they want more money or better working conditions.
How do we know when a dog is in good condition? How do we know when a dog is in good condition?
We know when a dog is in good condition because its coat is shining and its nose is cold and wet.
When you post a letter, do you take it to the main post office or do you just put it in the nearest letter box? When you post a letter, do you take it to the main post office or do you just put it in the nearest letter box?
When I post a letter, I put it in the nearest post box.
Very good. What does a manager do? What does a manager do?
A manager manages a business, that is, he runs the business.
If you can't manage to answer a question, what does the teacher do? If you can't manage to answer a question, what does the teacher do?
If I can manage to answer a question, the teacher helps me.
Very good. Shoulder, shoulder. What's this? What's this?
It's your shoulder.
Capital letter.
Capital letter.
When do we use a capital letter? When do we use a capital letter?
We use capital letter at the beginning of a sentence, for the pronoun I, for the first letter of a name of a person or a place, etc.
Beauty. Beauty. Which do you think is better to possess? Brains, beauty, or money?
I think it's better to possess brains.
Why?
Because you can get the rest with brains.
Okay. Corn. Corn.
Corn.
When do they cut the corn in your country? When do they cut the corn in your country?
They cut the corn all year round.
Very good. Weed. Weed. What do we do with weeds in a garden? What do we do with weeds in a garden?
We pull weeds in a garden out of the ground and either burn them or throw them away.
Idiom 12. Just the job.
Just the job.
Means exactly what is needed. For example, try opening the door with this piece of metal. Thank you. That's just the job. We'll be able to open the door with that in 2 seconds. So, what does the idiom just the job mean?
The idiom just the job means exactly what is needed.
Can you give me an example, please?
Sure. I looked all over the house until I finally found something that was just the job for repairing the table.
Thank you. End of lesson 109.